Leave this video now if you don't need motivation to act. But if you keep waiting for the right day, the right mood, the right energy, then listen. Because this video is for those trapped in an invisible addiction. The addiction to motivation. It gives you a rush and then drops you to the floor. Makes you feel strong for a minute and weak for the rest of the day. Here you'll learn how to replace that unstable fuel with a structure that never fails. To act even when everything inside you wants to quit. This isn't about feeling, it's about doing. And if that's how you want to live, subscribe. Not to feel inspired, but to train what really matters. Discipline. You wait, you scroll, you promise, then you stop. It feels like momentum for a second. That quick rush when motivation hits, but it dies before sunrise. Every time it fades, you sink deeper. You start believing there's something wrong with you. You call it burnout. You call it lack of inspiration. It's not. It's dependence. Motivation is a drug disguised as energy. It gives you a taste of power, then leaves you weaker than before. You chase the next hit, a video, a quote, a plan. But every time you wait for the feeling, you train your body to do nothing without it. That's the real loop. Desire, motivation, effort, collapse, guilt, repeat. You've run it for years. You know the pattern. The Monday fire, the Wednesday silence, the Friday escape. You call it inconsistency, but it's not inconsistency. It's the absence of a system. Comment if this sounds like your loop, because here's the truth. Motivation builds no muscle. It trains weakness. It teaches you to move only when it feels right. That's not power. That's permission seeking. Every time you wait for motivation, you surrender control. You give the steering wheel to emotion, and emotion is chaos, unpredictable, fragile, hungry. You can't build anything solid on it. Not a body, not a career, not a mind. Because emotion shifts with weather, with sleep, with approval. So you wake up inspired, then break the promise by noon. You feel guilty, so you look for another spark. You're not lazy. You're addicted to the wrong fuel. You think energy creates discipline, but discipline creates energy. That's the inversion nobody tells you. The man who waits to feel ready never acts. The man who acts before he feels ready becomes ready by action. Motivation asks, do you want to? Discipline says, it doesn't matter. Stop chasing emotion. Start building repetition. Because repetition is the only thing that rewires identity. Every move you make without feeling like it, that's a rep of control. Every time you follow through when it's boring, when it's dark, when nobody sees, that's the moment power grows. Power isn't loud. It's not a speech. It's not a playlist. It's the quiet repetition of a man who's done negotiating. That's where this begins. With hype, not with fire, with cold clarity. You don't need to feel strong to start. You start. That's how you become strong. Every time you move without motivation, you break the chain that kept you small. Every time you act from order, not emotion, you build a structure that can't collapse overnight. This isn't about mood. It's about mechanics. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. You don't need a spark, you need gears. When you grasp that, the waiting ends. The scroll ends. The self-doubt ends. Because strength isn't a feeling. It's a system executed daily, independent of emotion. So stop asking how to stay motivated. Ask how to stay structured. That question changes everything. You've been told to chase motivation, but chasing it is what keeps you weak. Because every time you depend on feeling, you surrender structure. And a man without structure is a man without direction. Motivation is random. Discipline is designed. Motivation is noise. Discipline is order. Emotion versus execution. That's the real war. Most men fight the wrong enemy. They think the problem is laziness, when it's actually chaos. They wait to feel in control, instead of building the system that creates control. Motivation tells you stories about purpose, about destiny, about fire. But when the story ends, you have no plan. You only have emotion. And emotion doesn't remember promises. Discipline does motivation as a rush. Discipline is a rhythm. One burns fast, the other builds slow. You don't need more emotion, you need more precision. Imagine two men, both want strength. One waits for the right moment, the right playlist, the right sunrise. The other just moves. Cold floor, empty stomach, silence. He doesn't wait for permission. He doesn't wait for feeling, he just executes. Guess which one becomes unbreakable? Because power isn't born from motivation. It's forged through repetition when nobody's watching. The first man runs on emotion. He burns out. The second man runs on structure. He lasts. This is the truth most never face. Motivation is fuel without an engine. Structure is the engine that moves even empty. That's why your progress keeps resetting. You never built the engine. You just kept refilling an open tank. Motivation leaks. Structure compounds. You don't rise when you feel inspired. You rise when your system works, even when you don't feel like it. If this hits, subscribe. We build discipline here because you've been sold the illusion that success is about emotion, that you need the why, that you must feel passion, purpose, drive. But real men know feelings are unstable currency. Structure is stable capital. The truth is cold, but it's freeing. You don't have to feel anything to act. You only have to act according to structure. Motivation says, I'll move when I'm ready. Discipline says, I'll move, and readiness follows. That's the reframe. Stop building plans around emotion. Stop building identity around execution. You don't need a spark, you need gears. You need a loop that runs, whether you feel fire or nothing at all. Motivation fades when life hits. Discipline stays when life hits, because discipline doesn't care about your mood. It cares about your next move. This is the shift that breaks the loop. You stop reacting, you start operating, you stop waiting, you start running, you stop asking for motivation, you start respecting structure. When you grasp that difference, life becomes predictable again. In the best way, you know exactly what to do next. No inspiration, no hesitation, just execution. Because every system you build reduces emotions' control over you. You become calm under pressure. You become silent in chaos. You move through resistance with the same face, the same pace. That's strength. Not loud, not dramatic, just constant. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline builds a man who stays. Here's where everything shifts. From theory to mechanism. From emotion to system. The discipline loop is simple. 3 words: plan, execute, review. That's it. But simplicity is deceptive, because it only works when you remove emotion from every step. Let's break it down. Plan every night before the noise returns. Set your minimum non-negotiable. 1 habit, 1 clear action that defines tomorrow before tomorrow begins. You don't plan to feel productive. You plan to build proof. Write it down. No inspiration quotes, no colors. Just a short list that fits in 1 breath. Wake time, workout, work block, repeat. That's the skeleton of power. Clarity before contact. Without a plan, the day owns you. With a plan, you own time. The plan is not emotional, it's mechanical. You're designing autopilot. When the alarm hits, you don't ask, do I feel like it? The plan already answered that. That's the first link in the loop. Execute. This is where most men die, because they try to feel disciplined instead of being disciplined. Execution doesn't care about your mood, it only cares about movement. Cold water, silence, the sound of shoes hitting the ground. These are signals, not feelings. Each act teaches your brain, we move no matter what. You stop trying to find motivation because you realize you don't need it. You just need to start. Action produces clarity. The loop feeds itself. Your move gives you gain control, gives you move again. If emotion enters, let it pass. You don't chase it. You observe and continue. This is where the man rebuilds his power, not by thinking, by executing. A system doesn't need excitement. It needs obedience. Discipline is not about effort. It's about repetition under zero emotion. You don't perform discipline, you live it. Every rep done in silence is another piece of armor built around your mind. Every day completed without negotiation is another proof that you can't be moved by weakness. That's execution, not perfect, but consistent. Cold, clean, reliable. Review. At night, you face the mirror. No drama, no judgment, just a single question. Did I execute or negotiate today? If you executed, good. Repeat tomorrow. If you negotiated, analyze, not apologize. You find a gap, you fix the system. Discipline isn't guilt, it's data. This step closes the loop. You evaluate and adapt, not to feel good, but to strengthen control. The man who reviews daily stops lying to himself. He doesn't live on hope, he lives on measurement. Plan, execute, review, again and again, until the process becomes identity. That's when you realize the truth. You don't have discipline, you are disciplined. This loop doesn't need hype, emotion, or external validation. It runs because it's built to run. You become the operator, not the passenger. You don't fight chaos anymore. You convert it into rhythm. Your mornings are predictable, your energy stable, your focus sharp. If this clicked, subscribe. We build discipline here. The loop will feel mechanical at first. That's the point. You're unlearning chaos. You're building order until order feels natural. You don't chase passion, you schedule it. You don't wait for balance, you design it. Every system you install becomes another gear in the engine. Motivation fades because it's based on emotion. Discipline compounds because it's based on structure. And when the system is strong enough, motivation returns, not as fuel, but as a side effect. You feel proud because you're consistent, not the other way around. That's the loop that builds real power. No mystery, no magic, just design, repetition, and review. You stop hoping for control, you engineer it. That's discipline, that's strength, that's freedom. Theory means nothing until it hits the body. So now you bring the loop into life. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now the discipline loop only becomes real through movement. You prove it with sweat, silence, and structure. Let's make it physical. Let's make it mental. Let's make it daily. Physical, the morning reset. You wake before the noise. No phone, no lights. Just cold water and the sound of your own breath. That's the first rep of the day. Control over comfort. You don't do it for courage. You do it for calibration. You drink water. You face the cold. You breathe 5 slow counts in silence. This isn't about becoming a morning person. It's about starting the day in command. Every second before sunrise is a test. Your body wants to negotiate. You refuse. You prove that motion begins before emotion. You win before the world wakes. That's discipline in physical form. Mechanical, clean, repeatable. No speech. No noise. Just a man, cold air, and a system mental to work loop. You sit. Timer on. 45 minutes. No phone, no distraction. You work until the timer ends. You don't chase inspiration. You chase completion. Your focus becomes measurable. You execute under silence. This is how mental strength is trained. Through attention, not adrenaline. Discipline doesn't care what you feel like doing. It cares what you do when feeling dies. You'll notice something around minute 20. Your brain starts to resist. That's the old system, the emotional loop, trying to regain control. Ignore it. You're not here to feel good. You're here to build consistency. When the timer hits 0, stop, review. 2 lines only. Did I execute or negotiate? If you executed, the loop strengthens. If you negotiated, identify why and adjust tomorrow's plan. That's it. No emotion, just iteration. You don't judge days, you count them. That's how a man regains control, one loop at a time. Routine, the environment system. Most men try to change behavior while living in chaos. They fight disorder with willpower, then call themselves weak when they fail. But willpower is a poor tool against disorder. Environment is the real force multiplier. Order the room, clean the desk, lay out the gear before sleep. Every object becomes a command. The sight of a ready environment eliminates negotiation. That's the hidden side of discipline. Automation through design. You'll remove friction so focus flows naturally. No motivation needed when everything around you says, move. The man who builds order externally strengthens order internally. You become what your environment rehearses. You start moving like your surroundings. Precise, silent, ready. Pause and write your one habit below, then execute it tomorrow. Because talking about discipline does nothing. Running the loop changes everything. This system doesn't care what kind of man you've been. It only cares what you repeat. When you act according to structure, emotion begins to respect you. It follows your lead instead of leading your day. The loop isn't glamorous, it's quiet. But inside that quiet is the exact strength you've been chasing. The difference between weakness and control is not intensity, it's consistency. Every day you complete the loop, you remove one layer of chaos. You build predictability, the foundation of freedom. People chase freedom as if it's chaos without rules. But freedom is structure without resistance. That's the paradox. Order feels restrictive until you've lived without it. Then it becomes peace. You'll notice it one morning when you wake up, execute, and realize you didn't think about it. No debate, no delay, you just moved. That's when you understand. Discipline isn't hard anymore. It's normal. That's the moment you've rebuilt your system from the inside. You're not chasing motivation anymore. You're running the loop automatically. That's real power. There's a moment when discipline stops being effort. It becomes identity. You wake up and move without negotiation. You act before thought. You execute before emotion. That's when you realize this was never about motivation. It was about control. Motivation builds excitement. Discipline builds power. And power is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply moves with precision, repetition, and order. You've spent years trying to feel strong. Now you understand strength isn't something you feel. It's something you are when you do what's required without needing to want it. The loop changed you. You used to wait. Now you act. You used to talk. Now you track. You used to hope. Now you build. That's the difference between a man controlled by emotion and a man defined by execution. You'll no longer need the rush. You'll trust the rhythm. Days blend together, not because you're bored, but because consistency has replaced chaos. You operate with calm predictability, and that calm, that's real power. When you live in discipline, time bends, hours expand, because decision is gone. You already decided last night. This is what men forget. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is knowing exactly what you'll do and doing it. You don't argue with the plan, you follow it, because the plan is no longer external, it's you. There's peace in that, a hard peace, the kind that doesn't smile but stands tall. You walk through noise and stay still. You feel anger and stay calm. You lose, You win, doesn't matter. The loop continues because discipline doesn't care about outcomes. It only cares about obedience to order. Every repetition reinforces your identity. Every decision not to negotiate builds a wall around your mind, a wall made of proof, brick by brick. And behind that wall, silence, not emptiness, clarity. You start hearing your real voice again, the one buried under noise, distraction, and guilt. It speaks in simple commands: up, move, finish. You no longer chase approval, you chase precision. You no longer fear failure, you fear disorder. That's how you know the transformation is complete. The loop runs without external fuel. The engine sustains itself. And now you see the truth. Power was never in emotion. It was in repetition, in the boring, in the quiet, in the unseen. That's where respect is born. That's where identity is rebuilt. You are not a man who waits. You are a man who runs the loop. Motivation creates spikes. Discipline creates structure. Structure creates freedom. Freedom creates peace. That's the hierarchy. That's the order. When others burn out, you continue. When others overthink, you execute. When others seek validation, you seek consistency. No emotion, just execution. This is the point of return where every weakness you once justified becomes irrelevant. You don't need to believe anymore. You just do. Belief follows evidence, and evidence is built through repetition. So you keep running the loop. You keep stacking days. You keep proving that strength doesn't come from intensity, but from control. That's the man you've become: calm, precise, reliable, not perfect, just consistent. The sun rises. The alarm rings. You move. No hype, no noise, only execution. If this message hits you, subscribe. Write your next habit below. The system starts with one move. We live the loop.